Jaylen Brown's knee is becoming an increasing concern. With the playoffs coming right around the corner, there's some discussion about whether or not he should be sitting out for a few games just to rest up and be ready for the postseason. You could see against the Heat that pretty much every time he landed from a jump shot, there was a bit of a grimace on his face. There was definitely some pain in that knee. He spoke about it post game. So let's listen to what Jaylen Brown had to say himself.
You kind of warmed up in the second half. How are you feeling out there? Are you feeling like, hey, I can do this? I mean, what was tonight kind of a test for you?
It's a good step forward. You know, every night you're not going, I've had to come to grips that every night I'm not going to feel my normal self, but that doesn't mean I still can't, make plays and things like that. So it's just something that we are working through. Today was a good step forward. I got some stuff, lined up with the medical staff in order to be and feel better come playoffs. But as for now, just mentally working through, not feeling great, but still able to, find ways to be effective, I guess.
Is this something that's been gradual to lead to this, or was it one incident that kind of led to this?
I think gradual. I've seen some specialists and stuff like that, but we got a great medical staff, and we got good people around. So come playoffs, my goal is to be feeling my best. So we're just working through that, and it's a thing that we kind of manage and you push through. But we got a good plan in place. So come playoffs, my goal is to be feeling my best.
Boy, Adam Taylor, I've been covering the Boston Celtics for numerous outlets for about just under or just around 10 years at this point. I also host a Celtics Chronicle newsletter and obviously this YouTube channel. I'm joined by my boy and resident cap expert, Billy Calabrese. What's popping, Billy?
What's up, everybody?
So these Jaylen Brown knee issues aren't new. Now, they come and go, and the discussion surrounding his knee has been around since around about 2021. And the reason I'm pulling up 2021 is because Danny Ainge spoke about it when he was still president of basketball operations. Brad Stevens spoke about it when he was still Celtics head coach. They've known that Brown is dealing with knee tendinopathy and knee tendonitis for a long time. It's just that obviously as you get older and there's more miles on the clock, and especially last year with how explosive Jaylen was tasked with playing in that play finisher role in that early first quarter tone setter, it put extra miles gets put on your knee. I mean, back in 2021, Danny Ainge was like, we hear a lot about load management, and load management prevents tendinopathy. But it's interesting because back in Ainge's time, he was playing 37, 36 minutes, and he had tendinitis pretty consistently. It's common among players in the NBA. It's something the Celtics will have to be wary of and look to manage with Brown throughout the rest of his career. Brad Stevens had very similar comments. They know that this is an issue, and Brown misses time due to his knee pretty much every year. The concern is, can he be 100% or close to it by the postseason? And I think playing in these games that mean absolutely zilch, nothing, like seeding's pretty much done, unless you're really trying to chase down the Cavs for that first seed, which is, it's not completely in your control. I think missing a few games we're here and now would be the best option for Brown.
Yeah, this is something that should terrify every Celtics fan. The way he plays, his style of play is so important of his explosiveness, his quickness, his athleticism. And this is something that's limiting that. We see now that basically every other game or every 3 games, he'll have a good game. Like he had a great game against Phoenix. The game before, he just wasn't moving right, didn't look right. And the game after, he was even worse. It's really hurt him all season. His shooting is as low as it's ever been. Thankfully, his ball handling and some of the other things, the assists are up. His playmaking is up. His turnovers are down. He's making up for it in other ways. It's like he's learning how to deal with it. And now that's the question that concerns me. Are these games important for him to manage the pain? Because let's be honest, it's a bone bruise. It's not going to get any better if he sits, if he doesn't. It could get worse. Now, obviously, he could make it worse by, getting injured again, while playing. But the thing is with him, I think he's learning how to manage the pain, and that's why he's playing through it and trying to play these games. I don't think he's going for the All-NBA. He needs 5 more games to do that. We only have 6 left. I really don't think that's what he's shooting for. I think he's just learning how to manage it, what he has to do before the game to get his knee loose, to get, feeling right, what he has to do after the game, what the recovery time is like. I really do think this is more about preparation, but I don't know if that's actually the thing we should be doing right now. in these meaningless games.
And like the bone bruises, for me, it's a symptom of a bigger cause, right? Now, I get that bone bruises happen on collision. It's nothing to do with the tendinopathy himself. But when you look at the way that bone bruises and you look at the way his knees are in general, he's probably already dealing with a certain level of pain game to game or stiffness or uncomfortability. Just there's an issue in that knee, regardless of the bone bruise. Now, when you add in an extra layer of issue, such as a bone bruise, such as swelling or whatever it may be, now that becomes a bit more concerning because there's two separate issues going on within the same joint. And that's when, for me, it's like, okay, we can manage the pain, but what's the long term effect of doing so? What's the long term effect of saying to you, play through that bone bruise, play through the swelling, play through the knee tendinopathy? Does that take away some of his burst down the line? Because like it's all well and good going for a championship now, and which I think I think everybody agrees they should. But Brown signed on for years. This is the first year of his supermax. You want him to be just as valuable at the end of that deal as you do, and the middle of that deal as you do now. And I genuinely believe that because of the other issues within that knee, on top of the bone bruise, rest is the best course of action. And I get that you can learn to play through it. There's some stretching you can do to kind of loosen it up. But for me, it just doesn't make sense. I would much rather you rest up and then be okay.
Yeah, and we both tend to agree about the All NBA thing, right? Like that doesn't have any implications for him. I mean, he probably will make it if he makes the games quota, but I mean, it doesn't have any financial implication. He already has a super max. I don't see why that would be an indicator of why he's playing. I know a lot of people throw that out there. I just don't see that's the case for him on this particular matter.
No, I don't think it's a matter in that sense. But what I'm saying is, like, you definitely don't want to hinder his ability to be at this level later in this contract because you asked him to play through extra pain, right? Because I get the bone bruise is a separate issue to the tendinopathy, but it's all within that same joint. Everything's within that same region of the knee. So now all of a sudden there's extra stress going on already. Resting it allows him to recover instead of putting him at risk of a larger injury, because you know what it's like. You hurt one thing, you carry on pushing through, and everything's connected, man. Something else can get bust up.
No, you can overcompensate and then you hurt the other knee because you're so protective of the one that's hurt. My question is, how long do you rest him? Do you even sit him the first round?
No, you don't sit in the first round. I think that the last time we saw the Celtics do that and they didn't have Brown for, I think it was the opening round, things didn't really go well for them in the postseason. I think for me, you rest him until the first round. And then depending on who you've got, maybe you rest him for a couple of games in that first round. But you need him healthy down the line. And health has been a big concern for the Celtics team all the way through the season. Drew, Kristaps, now Jaylen. There's Sam Hauser's back. There's been a few on and off issues over the season that have concerns coming into the postseason anyway. Don't exasperate that or whatever the word is by then giving Brown an opportunity to either injure himself more, make the issue worse, and as you said, overcompensate. There's so many things that could go wrong. Just let the dude rest. It's a couple of games.
My thing is that I'm trying to be an optimist. I always like to look at the bright side of things, but in my mind, I don't think with this short of time frame, he'll ever be 100% even during the playoffs. So now it becomes, can you win a championship with an 80% Jaylen Brown? And what does that look like?
And the problem is, it's not just an 80% Jaylen Brown, right? It's an 80% Jaylen Brown and 80% Kristaps, 70 to 80% Drew. It's 80% Sam. All these guys, barring Kristaps, were close to 100% last season, and now they're playing so much lower down in terms of production because of injuries they're carrying. Can you still compete then when you know that there's a chance Kristaps will go down? There's a chance you're going to have games where Jaylen can't play. There's a chance that Drew might not be able to play some games. Sam might go cold because his back's hurting once the playoffs begin. There's a lot of variables right now that are concerning, but I think that, I'd rather rest Brown now and have him at 80% than push him through these last few games and have him at 60.
And the other thing, like I said, it does seem like you get a good game out of him let's say every 3 games or so. That version of this more limited, but a better playmaker, less turnovers, maybe not the crazy athlete, but he still was able to kind of find his shot and get that pull up mid range jumper. That's the one thing that hasn't left him, even though his shooting is down pretty much all across the board. His three's horrible this year. His true shooting's way down. Obviously, his field goal percentage is down if you still like to use that stat. But I do feel like his mid range is the only place where he's really comfortable and he still has his confidence. That's such an important weapon. Do you think, what is this version of Jaylen Brown bring to the Celtics?
Okay, so let me just add on to that. He's attacking the rim less frequently than the last 2 seasons. The last time he was this attacking the rim this infrequently was 2021. So everything ties into when his knee issues first flared up. Back in 2021, he averaged 2020 to 2021, he was attacking the rim 29% of the time. The following season, 21 to 22, he was attacking the rim 30% of the time. To put that into reference, it was 34% to the last 2 seasons. Earlier in his career, it was closer to 50%, but obviously he's expanded his overall game. Mid-range has gone up. He's in the 96th percentile this year, attacking the mid-range game 41% of the time, because there's less risk of bumping knees, there's less risk of explosiveness. You don't need as much load coming off that knee or off those knees. So overall, I do think that his mid-range game has become a bit of a crutch, but it's also where he's elite. Now, I'm sorry, I added on and then I forgot what you asked me. So what did you ask me?
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, I do think that this version of Jaylen Brown, this 80% Jaylen Brown, can be valuable if used correctly. And like I said, that mid range is the big part of it. We do have other guys that can score in different ways. Maybe you tone down some of Jalen's usage. How would you use him?
I'd use him and I've said this for years. I remember saying this about 2-3 years ago. Jaylen Brown is what you get if you find an elite athlete and then mix him with DeMar DeRozan. I think there's quite a lot of similarities in the way those guys play and in the way that Jaylen has become a playmaker after he became like such an elite finisher. Kind of very similar to DeRozan's evolve, like how DeRozan evolved as a playmaker with the Raptors. I'd use him in a DeRozan role. I'd use him as your drop coverage punisher. Find ways to get Jaylen Brown the ball on the elbow, on around the nail in that high post, and then let him go to work out of there, because that's where he's going to be most valuable to you, and that's where he's also going to be at least risk of adding further injury to that knee. Now, the downside is what he gives you defensively. Right now, a big part of the Celtics championship run last year was Jaylen Brown being on a heater as your point of attack defender. He was guarded, he was locking up everybody, and with knee issues, that takes away a little bit of your mobility. It takes away a bit of your ability to change direction. That's more on your hips, but you need to explode off the lower body after you change that direction. When that load comes and explosiveness comes off the knee. So defensively, maybe you have him more of as a helper than as a point of attack guy. You give Drew that responsibility. You give Derek White. Celtics have been playing a very nail-heavy defense recently, pinching in at the elbows and taking away driving lanes that way. Brown has the length to do that, and it's also going to be far less load on that knee. So I'd do that. I'd have him more as a wing helper on defense, and then more of like a mid-range, zone busting, drop defense punishing kind of mid-range scorer on offense, at least until you know that he can sustain some explosiveness around the rim.
See, that's what terrifies me the most, even more than the shooting, because like I said, shooting can come and go. He has his spots where you can get rhythm. That mid-range is a safety net. The defense scares me because, honestly, I don't see anybody else guarding Donovan Mitchell in the Eastern Conference Finals but Jaylen Brown. And if Jaylen Brown's not up to that task, that becomes a 6-7 game series that can go either way, and we won't have home court in that series. That's where my concerns are like at a 10, because we really need him for Donovan Mitchell.
Again, I want to say what I always say. If you can't stop Mitch or any star, stop everybody around him, right? And you say that Jalen's the only guy. I think Tatum could do a good job on Donovan Mitchell. I do question whether Tatum could deal with the speed, though. Mitchell's burst is a problem, and that's where Brown could really help that way. The issue I've got is that is 3 playoff series in. That's your 3rd series in this, and you've got to get there before you worry about that. And right now, the whole idea is Brown needs to be at 80% or more in order for you to have a viable chance of getting there. How does the playoffs look right now? If we look at NBA.com, they've already got like the playoff brackets and how they could look upon their standings. So the Celtics first round would be the winner of the Magic and Hawks. So, I mean, the last thing you want in an opening round is to face a healthy Orlando Magic team, and I've got a feeling that's going to be who it is. So, even if it's the Hawks, whatever. But for argument's sake, let's say it's the Magic. They play tough, gritty basketball. Jalen Suggs is physical. Paolo's physical. Franz is Franz. I'm a big fan of Franz. You get through that. So if you get through that, then you're playing. How would that look then? Is that going to be the winner? Yeah, it's going to be the winner of the Knicks Pistons.
Yeah, and honestly, who knows? The Bucks and Pistons, I don't know which team's going to get that 5 spot and which one's going to get the 6.
But as things currently stand, it's New York and Detroit. Either one of those are going to be a dogfight, a proper sledgehammer dogfight. So you've got to get through those 2 rounds. Like, Orlando isn't an easy out. They've gave the Celtics problems for a few years. Detroit, New York, whoever, they're not an easy out, especially if it's the Knicks and you've got to play those road games in New York against Jalen Brunson, against Karl Anthony Towns, OG, whatever. So getting to Cleveland is the first problem. I'm not worried about how Jalen locks up Mitchell until they get to a point where he needs to lock up Mitchell. I'm worried about how the fuck you get there in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So I think that when I'm looking at this from a holistic point, you take it series by series, game by game, and you adjust his role accordingly. But I do think that if you are planning on using Jalen as a point of attack guy, you save it all the way through to the conference finals.
Yeah, because it really scares me, him having to like anchor like these bench units when Tatum sits. I think that is a non-starter with this limited 80% version of him. If Jalen's on the court, you have to have probably both Drew and Porzingis with him at all times. He can't anchor a Sam Pritchard kind of Cornet lineup. Not in this. Even when he's 100%, I don't feel great about it, even though he's been very good at it this year. But
you go back to what works, right? You put him back as your first quarter guy. You have JT running that second unit, and you go back to what won you a championship, and you hope for the best. This is going to be a much harder road than it was last year. Teams around the East have all got better. Cleveland's way better. New York's better. Detroit's better. Orlando are better. Even Atlanta are decent right now. You know, they got Dyson Daniels, who's just a menace. I'm more scared of facing Orlando in the first round than I am Atlanta. But overall, I think that Brown's knee issues are a problem. I think they are a reason to be concerned. He's got some of the best physiotherapists, some of the best like sports science guys around him trying to make sure he's healthy. But I do think that sitting him now is the wisest move and then ramping him back up during the playoffs, because right now you're just putting extra stress on that knee for no reason.
Yeah, that's the thing that scares me. This whole like him learning to play with the pain thing, that does not seem like something that's sustainable for 3 months.
Fuck that. With that being said, jump into the comment section. Let us know, should Brown play? Should he not? How much does this knee issue affect the Celtics' ability to contend in the postseason? And of course, hit that subscribe button. Sign up to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. It's currently going through a migration thing. Big things happening. And we got my boy Billy over on Letterboxd, just, you know, chopping it up, man, destroying these movie predictions one after another. Billy, what you been looking at this week?
Dude, been a great week. Luckiest Man in the World. Actually based on a true story. Phenomenal. Check it out.
Peace, everybody. Catch you soon.